Welcome to Politics Done Right on KPFT. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Give me a call at 713-526-5738. That is 713-526-KPFT. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host, along with my engineer, and I like to call him my co-host as well.
Always a pleasure
Senor
to be here.
Jacob Antien. How you doing, my brother?
I'm doing all right. It's an okay cold start to a new year, and I'm loving the weather because I know I'm going to hate it come the summer.
I don't think we need to hate it. I think we need to just live with it. But beforehand, we need to say, folks, Happy New Year, and we are going to make this a Happy New Year no matter what, because we're going to take control of the year. So it is Happy New Year. I hope you had fun. I hope you had safe fun, and I hope you're ready to get yourself going this year. We're all going to be doing our education together. But anyhow, so Jacob, you said you had a quiet New Year's?
Very, very quiet.
I did too, for a change.
I got a couple of invites to go certain places downtown, but with how nuts I knew it was going to be, I didn't want to mess with it. And I live about 30 minutes out, and that's a long way to go to chance getting killed by somebody who's going to be stupid on the road. So I was like, nah, let me go ahead and
Hey, I hear
skip
you.
all that.
I hear you. We took it quite easy this week as well, So what are we going to talk about today? Today we will take on a touchy subject within the Democratic Party. Is Hillary Clinton a shoo-in? Is she the best, or is she the heir to the Obama coalition? Is there even an Obama coalition? I did some rough analysis. I continue to believe that the Democratic Party is simply taking too much for granted. I want to remind folks that we had a generous donor who offered to match $200. Actually, it was supposed to end on the last show, but we were going to end it in this show. So if you're so inclined, just go to the tip jar on kpft.org and say, we want to make sure that all these shows stay on KPFT, and you can be nice doing that. We remember, folks, this is also a call-in show. The number is 713-526-5738, 713-526-KPFT. Please, as we're done with the weekly blog, please give us a call and give us your ideas. Tell us what you think about what's going on. And it's now time for...
It's time for the weekly blog post.
Well, I really had two things that I wanted to talk about today. One was the presumptive Democratic nominee, supposedly, but I won't say the name within the blog, and gas prices. But I'll start with the nominee stuff first, and then we can then get into gas prices. I have some suggestions that I hope people are going to say, we are not going to fall into the oil company's trap again. We're not going to fall into this again anymore. No more. No más. Vamos a hacer esto. Okay. The blog that I wrote was called Warning to Democrats. Republicans know Obama coalition a myth. Is it? Most of us for too long have bought into the traditional media's assertion of an Obama coalition. The Huffington Post article, Republicans Plot to Shatter Obama's Coalition in 2016, got me to thinking, is there really even an Obama coalition? President Obama won the presidency twice. Each time he won, he did so by substantial margins. His 2008 winning percentages were 43%, 95%, 67%, 62%, 66% for the white, black, Latino, Asian, and other groups respectively. His 2012 winning percentages were 39, 93, 71, 73, and 58 for the white, black, Latino, Asian, and other groups respectively. You know, those numbers are pretty darn close to each other in both sides. It was just enough for him to lose a particular state that he won. I think he had won Indiana in 2008. He didn't this time around, and I think he won North Carolina the first time around. He didn't win North Carolina the second time around. But those were just at tipping points that little change in amount were able to tip. But historically, you know, blacks voted almost exclusively Democratic after the Dixiecrats became the core of the Republican Party after the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, etc., etc. Younger blacks do not hold that loyalty even though their current propensity is still almost exclusively Democratic or not voting at all. Latinos and other ethnic and cultural minorities, while having a propensity to vote Democratic, do not have the same type of attachment to the party based on legislative history. George Bush's 2004 election is actually very probative. And those are the numbers I looked at because those are some interesting numbers. And check it out. His 2004 winning percentages were 58, 11, 44, 44, and 40. That was white, black, Latino, Asian, and other groups respectively. In other words, he got 58% of the white vote. Obama got 44 the first time, 39 the other times. Differential, substantial, but we know why. Moving on. The above numbers are electorally balanced given today's realities. In other words, I think Bush's numbers are a bit more realistic as to what would likely occur in 2016. In either direction, that is. In either direction. Why? Because there's nothing substantial that we have done to increase the percentages of these growing populations that are supposedly democratic. So there's no belief that in 2 years after the throbbing that we took in 2014, that is even a distinct possibility, or it is a distinct possibility. So moving on. The above numbers for Bush are electorally balanced given today's realities. It should put a fear in every Democratic presidential candidate's psyche. You see, just like Karl Rove was wrong about permanent Republican majority in 2001, those who claim some sort of Obama coalition that guarantees a 2016 Democratic president are wrong. The Bush coalition of 2004 actually looks much more balanced and sustainable than the mythical Obama coalition. Take a look at it. All Republicans need to do to replicate the 2004 Bush coalition is to simply not act crazy. That's it. Don't act crazy. A few months back, I wrote the piece, "Don't laugh, but Rand Paul could be your next president." That had many calling me naive. Yes, you know, Egberta, there you go again. Bringing up Rand Paul as a potential. Bringing up, people are going to go crazy because I have a blog coming out tonight that's going to say we also need to keep our eye, just like John Fugelsson said, we have to keep our eye on Huckabee as well. I mean, guys, you don't get it. You have to get some of these things. Remember. Anyhow, continuing. This, they called me naive. This even as we are a country that elected an articulate actor, Senor Reagan, and less than an intellectually competent Yale graduate, Senor George W. Bush. Rand Paul does not, and this is what I wrote in that piece that people laughed at. They said, "Oh, you're so naive, Egberto." This is what I said. Rand Paul does not need to blow up the Obama coalition to win. He simply needs to skim the fat. His little excursions into the liberal base can do just that. His base is much more committed to winning and voting than our base. You doubt it? Check out the Florida 13 election that was probative. Look up Florida 13 election. last year. It would be irresponsible if liberals do not start taking serious steps now to be inoculated on the populist flank. This will help not only in the presidential race, but in every congressional district. The biggest fear is that if there is a coronation of a select few, tweet, tweet, Hillary, many potential candidates remain undeveloped. Worse is the inability to recover from an unknown. And there's a lot of unknowns that a lot of Democrats are not talking about with regards to Hillary that are really knowns. If we are in a situation in 2008 where Wall Street still monopolizes all the spoils, a great economy that only benefits a few, a populist Republican can buck his party, win his primary, and come on strong. But let me not get ahead of myself. The biggest fear is that if there is a coronation of a select few, many potential candidates remain undeveloped. Worse is the inability to recover from an unknown. The fact that Ronald Reagan and George Bush were elected presidents of the United States mean it is not far-fetched that Rand Paul could be elected president. Rand Paul has much to say about the imbalance in the incarceration of minorities, a subject most Democrats ignore. He has had much to say on various other issues that affect many within the Obama coalition. Politico reported the following about a statement by no other than the Reverend Al Sharpton. Wow, this is interesting. The Reverend Al Sharpton says Rand Paul's effort to engage black voters could present a strategic challenge for Democrats. If the Republican senator runs for president, fewer African Americans may be motivated to show up and vote against him. The civil rights activist and TV host and had breakfast with Kentucky Senator last week, and the pair discussed the need for criminal justice reform before disagreeing over how to deal with the immigration system. Democrats have traditionally done well among African American voters, especially with Barack Obama at the top of the ticket. In 2016, Democrats will need maximum black turnout in a lot of states, Sharpton told Politico. What I think is more dangerous for Democrats is if a guy like Paul is out there. If he becomes the nominee, for argument's sake, he does not generate a turnout against him among African Americans, Sharpton said. He added, if he's able to neutralize his past image on civil rights, if he becomes a candidate, and if you don't get a huge black turnout saying we're afraid of him, that could be a pitfall for Democrats. Al Sharpton said that last week. I said that 6 months ago when he started to go out to Howard University, when he started to go out to Berkeley, University of California, Berkeley, and all these other places. The writing was on the wall. The guy laid out a map of what to do. But here's the ending of my blog. 3 more little paragraphs. Rand Paul does not even have to be the presidential Republican nominee. He just needs to make a few of our low information voters less apprehensive of the Republican Party. That diminishes their urgency to vote, as was evident in 2014. It does not take much for our folk not to vote. The Democratic nominee better take on issues directly that solidifies the Democratic base. Prosperity likely will not have trickled down by November 2016, even with a seemingly good economy. The Democratic nominee will have to be unabashedly populist and anti-Wall Street, the arbiters of capital extraction. They must be the embodiment of our just lost liberal orator, the good, great old Mario Cuomo. Mario Cuomo was the guy. Anybody remembers that speech? 1984. I actually have it linked in this blog as well. One of the best liberal progressive speeches ever. I think it was even a better speech than the speech President Obama gave in 2004 when he talked about not a blue America, not a red America. Cuomo's speech was a real progressive, liberal-based speech with content, with context, everything all together. I'll ask anybody, get on the website, check out, go to politicsdoneright.com for the show today and check out that speech that Cuomo gave. Hell of a speech. The nominee must bring back to life the essence of Cuomo's 1984 keynote speech and FDR's second Bill of Rights. It's amazing how these old things, Mario Cuomo's speech was, 20 years ago, a little over 20 years ago. FDR's second Bill of Rights speech was over 50 years ago, 60 years ago. I don't even have my math done right, but when he came and he said, this is the second Bill of Rights, and he went on, I have the video of that as well. Folks, take a look at it. It's amazing how much of that stuff is still relevant. But anyhow, to close out, as elitist Democrats continue the coronation of some with the expectation that the Obama coalition is static for their taking, a big surprise might just be in the making. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. One hopes the lesson will be learned in due time. One hopes the lesson will be learned in due time. Folks, this is a call-in show, 713-526-5738, 713-526 KPFT. You're listening to KPFT FM 90.1 FM, and I don't have the other stations. Could you tell us those other stations, those other numbers?
89.5 in Galveston, 90.3 FM in Goodrich, Livingston, and 91.9 in Huntsville.
Muchas gracias, Senor Jacob. And folks, remember, so give me a call, 713-526-5738. I want to hear your opinion on this particular subject, and then if we get through this, we can then likely move on to gas prices. But Terry, come on in. Happy New Year, my dear brother. How have you been? I haven't heard from you in a while.
I've been fine. I've been out of town, but I'm back. Happy New Year to you, my friend.
Happy New Year. I hope you had a great time. I imagine you're in California with those beautiful grandkids.
I was, and I was just absconded in Peak World.
So how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. But listen, I want to talk on subjects right quick. I don't necessarily agree with the assertion that we have to have a re-engagement of the past, and I believe the phrase that you used was we need a Democrat that is not going to be beholden to the Wall Street types.
Right.
Okay, so my first question would be, or my first statement really would be, name the last Democrat who wasn't.
I don't know. Truly, I don't know. I don't think there was one, my friend.
Okay, well, I go as far back in memory as Johnson. Johnson wasn't.
Well,
Carter was not. Probably
yes.
Carter was not.
You know what? You're correct. It's funny how when it comes to time, I always, for some reason, begin at Reagan, and the reason I begin at Reagan is that's where the demise really started. But you're right. Carter wasn't. Johnson wasn't, and I don't even think Nixon was. In fact, Nixon was sort of the type of guy that wanted to pass what actually something a healthcare plan a lot more liberal than Obamacare. But continue, my friend.
Agreed, but Clinton was
right,
and Obama is.
And
so my statement would be that the likelihood that we will come up with a Democratic nominee, whoever that person may be, that will be someone who will be a thorn in the side of Wall Street or will be willing to pass legislation that is inconsistent with Wall Street's money at all costs theory, I think is not likely, and I don't think it's realistic. And secondly, you mentioned in your blog that we need to go back to Obama's speech, we need to go back to Cuomo's speech. You mentioned, I believe, Eisenhower's speech, and I don't want to go back anymore.
Okay.
I want to go forward. I don't want to go back to Clinton. I don't want to go back to Carter. I don't want to go back to Johnson. I don't want to go back to Eisenhower. And under no circumstances do I want to go back to Reagan.
I want to just say a little something with regards to that. When I said go back to those speeches, I didn't mean go back to those speeches as far as looking at them literally or following the words.
No, I know.
Yeah, it was going back to the speeches to say, hey, it's amazing how these speeches are still valid today, which means the progress that was made, so much of it was lost. But continue, my friend.
They are absolutely valid. In fact, the most prescient speech I've ever heard is Eisenhower's '59 speech, where he warned about the military industrial
complex. Yes, sir.
However,
yes, sir.
My point is, it's time for some new thinking. It's time for some new blood. If there is another Bush-Clinton ticket or Bush-Clinton race, I'll throw up. And I'll hold my nose and I'll vote for Hillary Clinton. But believe me, I'll be holding it tightly. I don't want a rehash of the 90s. I don't want old policies. I'll never forgive Clinton for signing away Glass-Steagall.
Right.
Hillary will do the same thing.
Yes.
I don't think it's a good idea, and it's time for this country to move beyond the Bushes and the Clintons.
Terry, I think Jacob wanted to say something, but just before Jacob, well, actually, I'll let Jacob talk, and then I'll say what I want to say. But before Jacob talk, folks, this is a call-in show. We have a lot of lines open, 713-526-5738. Again, that number is 713-526-5738. This is a rather important subject for progressives. I would love to hear from you because do we want, I mean, Terry just laid it out. Do we want a Clinton-Bush ticket? Or not Clinton-Bush race again? Is that what we're doing? Looking back to the past? But it's all yours, Jacob.
I have to agree with Terry to some length. The idea of having another Bush-Clinton race is so awful to me that it would not only just be a moral good to vote for neither, but I'd almost consider it personally, just from my perspective, almost a duty to country to find somebody else, to vote for somebody else. And even if the primaries play out such that the general comes up with the Clinton-Bush ticket, or excuse me, race, that I would start looking at seriously considering third parties.
Now, let me, Terry, what do you think about that? I want to see Terry's response about third party and that sort of thing. What do you think?
Well, third party is not viable and is going to only assure the supremacy of one candidate or the other. And I think, all you have to do is look at what Ross Perot did to George H.W. Bush to validate that. But I do understand this point. I have no desire to go back to that. And I have been saying since I got out of college that the greatest danger this country will ever face is the lack of a truly participative democracy. The fact that we have these political hierarchies that dominate the culture is, as far as I'm concerned, the greatest threat, because those people are the ones who hold the interlocks of power generationally. And that's got to stop.
Absolutely. I agree with that. Now, you see, I go through a whole lot of heartache. And the reason I go a lot of heartache, I have a whole lot of Green Party friends as well. And, they really give me a lot of trouble. When I say trouble, I mean, Egberto, until we start really abandoning one of the major parties and really put some effort into a third party, nothing is going to change. Well, I mean, had we done that, people can hate a lot of the policy or think that a lot of the policies President Obama passed were not good enough, which they would be absolutely correct about. But some is better than none, as far as I'm concerned, until we can actually change the body politic. And now, I love what you said, Terry. I mean, when you made, and before, let me invite more people to call. Folks, the number is 713-526-5738, 713-526-5738. We have a whole lot of open lines. I would love to hear from you. This is a rather important subject for progressives. I know it's the beginning of the year, but let's get busy. A lot of work to do. But yeah, Terry, as I was saying, I love what you said with respect to not necessarily looking backward, which I don't think anybody in this building wants to look backward, but to not look backward assumes that you've successfully built a movement. Sometimes a little bit of backwards is there until the movement comes to fruition. And I look at where we're at right now as the biggest attempt at getting awareness. And I really thought, I'll be honest with you, during the 2014 election, I personally was all over town. And I guess I had a whole lot of, wishful thinking can apply to just about anybody. You can see things that aren't really there when you're really hoping that people are thinking the way you are or seeing things the way you're seeing them. But I thought I saw people more engaged than they really were. Or just maybe I was clouded by the folks I was around. But I in as much as, I put the game face on after the debacle in 2014 and said, okay, we just have to, move on from this one. But there's something systemic about what happened in 2014 that concerns me about 2016. And that is, it wasn't just that this election in 2014 wasn't, that the supposedly Obama coalition didn't show up. Well, a lot of folks didn't expect that anyway, given 2010. I think what was most distressing is the volume of people that actually showed up. And that volume speaks about an apathy that I don't know is redeemable in 2016. What do I mean by that? When I tell folks the Bush coalition looks a lot more possible to me than the mythical Obama coalition. What I see, and in speaking to a whole lot of folks that would normally, let's say, vote progressive, is that they are they consider that it's not worth my time because they're all the same. You and I know that it's not the case, but there are so many. In fact, Jacob has some smirks about that every so often, that they're vote the same. And the reflection that we got in 2014 was exactly that. It was people finally reaching that point where they're saying it really doesn't matter. And that is dangerous for not only Democrats or anyone else, that's dangerous for the country, because that is the end game for capitulation. That's where fascism takes over. In America, it would be a soft fascism, but right now, for all practical purposes, we are a soft fascist state. Okay. Go ahead.
I don't necessarily disagree with you, but I'll give you a different spin. If you want to talk about a third party, all you have to do is look at the effect that the Tea Party has had on the right wing.
Right.
I'm certainly not suggesting that anybody in the Democratic or Progressive coalition comport themselves in a manner similar that those people have.
Mm-hmm.
However, they have shown you the pathway in terms of being effective.
Right.
Now, secondarily, however, in terms of fascism, I said it way back in 2010.
Right.
And I'm going to say it again, and I may not be alive to see it come to fruition. But these people on the far right, in their zeal to destroy Obama and the political left, have let loose the demon. And the demon is lunacy.
Right.
And the same lunacy that consumed Eric Cantor is coming for a few more members of that coalition. You see, Louis Gohmert's running for...
yes.
Yeah, well...
Speaker of the House.
That should be interesting.
Yeah.
It's humorous today.
Yes.
But I promise you, Louis Gohmert is a fool. But the next guy following Louis Gohmert won't be a fool. But he'll have the same views that Louis Gohmert had.
Right.
And he might not win. But the guy after him, who has seen the error, a la Rand Paul, do you really think Rand Paul is any less conservative than any of the rest of these morons?
Absolutely not.
He is not.
No.
But he is smart. He has seen the failure, and he is willing to play the game so that he can get the reins of power.
Exactly.
And that's what these people are going to do. And when they get control, and they have full control, you will see fascism unlike Nazi Germany never saw.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That is definitely the case. Terry, hold on. Let me bring Wayne into the conversation. Wayne, come on. Happy New Year, Wayne. How are you doing?
Hey, guys. How y'all doing? First of all, let me say Happy New Year to everyone there.
Thank you, sir. Could you turn your radio down, my dear friend?
All right. Happy New Year. I hope y'all had a good one. I'm listening at what you're saying, Egberto, and in some regards, I think I agree with you. Hello?
Yeah, turn your radio down a bit, please, Wayne.
Okay, hold on.
Yeah.
Just a minute, just a second here.
Thank you.
That better?
Yes, sir. I appreciate it, sir.
Okay, it's good. I kind of think, like you're saying, that sometimes we have to go back to come forward. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
Just thinking about this big uproar they got about the movie Selma right now that's going on, and how it's depicting history, and supposedly some think that it's depicting history
wrong because of Johnson. Yeah,
and inaccurately. I don't know how many people think that that's being depicted inaccurately, and those that would think so, I would say maybe they need to go back and read some of their history, because the stories are there. You know what I mean?
Well, Wayne, I think we need to tell our audience what's going on with that, and I don't think this is too far-fetched a change in subject, but let's just kind of take it a little quick here. What happened is the depiction in Selma of Johnson was that Johnson was not ready to get the Voting Rights Act passed. Okay, so he was trying to slow down Martin Luther King from getting that done, and he tried to get Martin Luther King to go to Selma to force Americans to see how bad these folks were being treated, and in doing so then he can get it done. I don't think, first of all, that they depicted that. I mean, when I saw Chris Matthews just about attack Dr. I don't remember the name of the doctor who was actually saying the movie was neither about Martin Luther King nor was it about Johnson. But anybody who lived in the 60s know that there's a lot of that goes on in the back room as far as talking to Martin Luther King and saying, "Hey, guy, we have to slow things down a bit," or whatever. We know from other sources that those things did happen, Wayne.
Yeah. But that brings me back to pretty much the reason why I went there is because it brings me back to the question that you asked when you opened up the show. And that was, do we think that we need to have a different alliance or more people in the Democratic Party? Okay, right?
Yes, sir.
And the reason for voting. Well, what I see, Egberto, is that if people are low information voters,
yes,
and they actually are not paying attention to what's going on in their well-being, you follow what I'm saying? Their well-being,
right?
A lot of people will assume that I shouldn't go out and vote because it's not going to matter.
Right.
That should never be anyone's purpose of voting. That's what I'm trying to say. That's the reason why I went to that. It should never be anyone's purpose of voting. Because back at that time, when Martin Luther King was fighting for the right to vote and for people to have it and then go out and use it, and now here we are some 50, almost 60 years later, and we're saying, and we're having a discussion about people not thinking that their vote matters,
right,
or they don't think that they should get out and vote, is something wrong with that. You follow where I'm going?
Yes, and now let me add to that, Wayne, because I think a lot of that is programming, right? I mean, I don't know if you remember back in the days when you had the marches and so forth, people wanted to vote because they didn't have that opportunity to vote, and they know they were going to make a difference voting. They're finally going to vote. And we had civics teachers, right? Whether you got your civics from high school, elementary school, or your church. I'm not a church-going person, but the church was a big institution in all these communities, and they stressed the value of voting. They stress all these different values of being a real American citizen and what you are supposed to do as a real American citizen. Now, if I speak to Jacob or many of these other younger people, they don't have, and Jacob, you can tell me if I'm simply absolutely wrong here, but I don't see, when I hear Jacob tell Terry something like, sometimes I'll bite my tongue, or maybe I'll do, they do not see the value in voting as many of us in, let's say, the baby boom generation that grew up in times when we really cherished voting.
Right.
And
go ahead.
Yeah, so I think one of the reasons I'm an activist and do these things is that I want to engage, maybe I'm wrong with Jacobs, but I want to engage people like Jacob and others, or to really bring that back, to give a reason why it is that no matter whether you lose or win in a particular election, the important thing is to continue to build a movement where you're going to make sure that you're relevant, you're going to make sure that you matter, you're going to make sure that you vote. Because only when folks know, even if a lot of people think you're voting wrong, when folks know that it is almost genetic that you're going out there to the polls, then immediately you matter. The reason why, in a lot of ways, to some extent, black folks overperform with politicians and Latinos underperform with politicians is the relative percentage of voting.
Right, exactly.
Okay, so those are issues that really need to be taken serious. Before anybody talk, let me just get one station break in. This is KPFT 90.1 FM. We have open lines, 713-526-5738. Again, that number is 713-526-5738. And Jacob's going to tell us what the other stations are.
Galveston 89.5, 90.3 in Goodrich, Livingston, and 91.9 in Huntsville, and streaming around the world on kpft.org.
Thank you very much, senor. But yes, so I mean, it is important, like I'm saying, that we put the value back into voting. Now, when Terry says we don't want to look back, we want to start looking forward. Hey, Terry, you are in the game, and we are in the game, and we are going to be those that are helping move forward. Hey, Wayne, anything else you want to say real quickly before I go to Gus?
Yeah, and I tend to be with Terry when he says that we need to look forward.
Yes.
I'm a visionary thinking person, so
yes, sir.
I think that we always have to look forward. And some looking back is good.
Right.
I'm not going to say that no looking back is good, because some things were meant to be brought forward.
Absolutely.
See what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
Some things were meant to be brought forward and never forgotten. But we have to be a visionary people, and we as Democrats, we as liberals, we as progressives have to be more forward-thinking, have to be more assertive, and more outgoing, and to build a coalition. So that's what I wanted to say.
Look, Wayne, as usual, thank you for calling in. Keep listening. I really appreciate the call. It was great having you. Now, the next caller is Gus. Gus, how art thou doing?
What's up, bro? This is Gus from Sunnyside.
Gus from Sunnyside. How you doing, Gus?
Oh, man, I'm glad for my Latinos, my blacks, and my whites, everything. I'm with it all.
I love to hear that, sir. We are going to be
Reed Road and Martin Luther King. So if you want to know where I'm at, come get me.
Listen, buddy, we are going to be the real coalition. That is real Americans, all Americans of every stripe.
Yeah, man, but I appreciate what you're doing, man, for real. I'm just shooting the thing. You know, I don't want to talk because I know y'all probably can't take no cuss words, but I mean, I'm just shooting it to you.
You're going to give me a heart attack.
Every time I listen to you, man, you a real brother, man.
I appreciate
brother. You ain't no Latino. You can speak that Spanish all you want to. I know it, como se llama and all that. Yeah, we all together.
We are all one, my brother. We are all one,
man,
sir.
But people don't understand that we have to work together and to make this America way, man. It's not just the white man way. Everybody want to put it on, the white man brought me down. Nah, I ain't no white man. You brought yourself down because you won't get up and go to work.
Well, you know what, my dear friend Gus? You are part of this coalition, and what we are going to do together, all of us, is, Gus, when it's time for us to mobilize. And by the way, folks, I want you to keep in touch with two places on Facebook, Politics Done Right, and on the website, politicsdoneright.com, where we can actually engage, where we can actually talk about doing things.
I'm going to hit you tomorrow. I got my own Facebook page. I can do that.
Yes,
it's not even about that, but it's the point.
Right.
You are a real leader, man. You really bring the community together. I listen to everybody, but I mean, sometimes I didn't know you came on Monday. I was looking for you on Tuesday and Wednesday because I don't remember the last time I talked to you.
Right.
But I mean, if people listen to you, they know what's going on, man, because you really you put the standing point for everybody. You stand up for everybody.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
You don't go for no one person. You go straight. I don't know about these other guys, Leonard and all these other guys that got off. They just talking out their head. You are a straight person that goes straight forward, and you tell what it is, because you know what it is in the world. Them old-fashioned dudes that be out here still sitting on a tree. No, we got to come forward and get in this business world because there's money out there to get.
Thank you.
I'm a hustler.
I hear you, Gus. Gus?
I used to sell drugs.
Mm-hmm.
I ain't trying to shoot nobody down. I ain't going to be no hater or nothing, but I'm telling you from a dude that used to be a drug dealer.
That you've lifted yourself up and you left.
I know what it is about.
I hear you, sir.
Out there selling dope.
Sir, I got to go, but Gus, I tell you what, I appreciate the call. Hit me up.
Shoot you some information
Yeah, hit
on
me.
your thing,
Right.
and then you're going to talk one-on-one because I need to talk to you.
Absolutely, sir. You have a wonderful day, and thank you very much for calling, my friend. Okay? I'll talk to you on Facebook and on the website. Go ahead, Dan. I think that's Dan? Yeah.
Yes.
Come on in, Dan. How you doing, my brother?
Hey, I wanted to kind of touch on something Wayne just said, I believe, about just voter apathy, people not wanting to vote because they think it doesn't matter.
Yes, sir.
I think that's something that, people have forgotten how hard it was to vote.
Right.
Back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s,
Right.
people were still very conscious that their grandmother or their parents, their mom didn't have the right to vote. Maybe I forget, when did 18-year-olds get to vote, but that was still relatively new. For a lot of people, they felt they were making a difference back then.
Right.
And recently, what have we seen? We've seen presidential elections go to the courts, and the court got to decide.
Yes.
Popular vote, a presidential candidate that a lot of people argue still that won the popular vote didn't win the election. And a lot of people have just thrown up their hands in recent years.
I tell you,
think that they're making a difference.
Dan, it's interesting that you mentioned that about the popular vote, because yesterday I wrote a blog that went viral that said, did you know that for the Senate races, 20 million more votes came for Democrats as opposed to Republicans, yet we lost it in a landslide? That is a defect in the Constitution. It is a defect in the United States Constitution that we have a government that really isn't representative. If people can talk about it being a republic all they want and all that good stuff. Yes. In the modern world, there is a defect in the Constitution that is allowing most people's voices to go unheard. And we can actually solve that, though. It's not the end of the world. We can solve that. What we have to do is engage just like you're engaging right now. Anything else more you want to say, Dan?
No, that's basically it. I think a lot of people have just, and even popular movements like Occupy Wall Street.
Right.
It's a news blurb. Nothing really happened. No laws were changed.
Right.
Nobody went to jail over that even.
I want to encourage.
Except for the protesters.
You're absolutely right. I want to encourage people to look at groups like these are transpartisan groups that actually get things done, like coffeepartyusa.com and movetoamend.org. These are good organizations. I must say that I'm in both of them, but these are organizations that are actually trying to do something. One is trying to really inform and engage people. One is working on getting money out of politics through a constitutional amendment. And these are movements that are really building momentum. So Dan, look, I appreciate your call. Please keep listening. Please keep calling. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. You have a wonderful day. And I think the next call is for Sissy.
Hey, how you doing?
How you doing, my friend?
Just fine. I'm glad you all talking about the voting. I went to vote and I cast my vote during this past election.
Yes, sir.
And I got a letter in the mail from the county clerk's office said my vote didn't count.
Oh, what happened?
And I wanted to know, what do I need to do, because they said I didn't have identification when I went there, and I did. And so I got a letter back that's saying my vote did not count. What do I need to do about that? And my second question is, what do we do about the cap that's been put in place for these hospitals when these doctors botch up these surgeries, in some cases kill some of the patients, where they have a cap where you can only get...
Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. That was tort reform. Let me first... Tort reform. The first thing about the voting is you got to go to the county clerk. But here's the thing, sir. When you went to vote, you didn't use the machines. I imagine you had to vote provisionally?
I voted. Well, they had me to sign a paper, said, well, my identification wasn't right or whatever. But I have my card, and that card says I am allowed to vote. I've been registered since 18 years old, 51 now. So, I can't figure out what was the problem. I say, well, maybe because I didn't vote for the candidate that they wanted me to vote for. But my question is, what do I need to do? And how can I expose this? Because
I want to let me first say, I'm a blogger as well, okay?
Okay.
And one of the things that we like to do is expose the difficulty that people who want to vote, people who want to do their civic duty, are facing currently. So you have my website is politicsdoneright.com, but you can also get to me at the Facebook page Politics Done Right. But politicsdoneright.com
is
a web page, and you can send me an email from there, or you can go again to the Facebook page and get to me. I would love to get.
Is it any number I can call you at? Because I'd like to talk to you more off the air about not only that situation.
And that's what I'm saying. I will definitely want to talk to you, sir. There's no doubt. We'll definitely talk. All you need to do now, if I won't give my cell phone over the air, but if you reach me through those avenues, either the Facebook page or the website, or I can give you the email, which is egberto@politicsdoneright.com. Okay.
And look, it's not only that, but this judicial system. Speaking of voting, it needs to be exposed. I have seen the grand juries across this nation, while reviewing information or reviewing the facts in front of them, come back and said nothing was done wrong to that particular person. And I give you a good case of that is a guy that they choked in New York.
Right.
And so they literally choked the life out of him on national TV when I saw it. Where he's saying, look, hey, man, I can't breathe.
Right.
He's going down, his hands stop.
Right.
Mid position, when the life goes out of the body, his hands are stuck in that position. And they continue to choke him. And then goes to the grand jury. Grand jury said, nothing done wrong. That's fine. Continue to go on about your daily activity.
Right. Let me beforehand. I made a little boo boo here, CC. I want to follow up on exactly what you're saying, so I'm going to take that back. But Jacob had wanted to say something, and in the fairness doctrine that I have with wanting to make sure everybody get their piece in, I want to make sure that Jacob said it was from the other caller that he wanted to say something. I really want to get him in. What did you want to say, Jacob?
It was. I wanted to respond to the notion that younger people don't particularly care about voting, don't appreciate it. I know that's certainly not true with me. I don't discount the value of voting. I do discount the value of voting for certain candidates.
Okay.
A number of candidates. And I'm actually taking a look at an article right here by Politico called Why Democrats Need Labor Again. And this is just an example of many of the problems that I have with the Democratic Party and why I discount the value in voting for them these days. A couple of commenters on this particular article here. I'm looking at it on Reddit. The Spicily note that too bad they crippled labor by passing NAFTA, right to work laws. Looking at we're staring down the barrel of TPP.
TPP, yes.
If it's Democrats that are doing this to working people, what's really the value in voting for them if they keep serving these?
I really wanted you to say that, but before you answer that, CC, I want to comment about what you said. I heard you, Jacob. We talked about that. We'll talk about that part again. But when it comes to the judicial system, and then I'll let you answer that one, CC. I think it's important for all Americans to realize that the judicial system, that this fair judicial system that is the best in the world and all of that, I don't care how many times you say it's the best in the world, it doesn't mean a darn if there are a whole lot of people that it treats wrongly. I don't care how good a judicial system is. When people come and look, there are a lot of things that are wrong here, but I want to, because you brought it up about the choking incident, and because you brought up the legal thing, I wanted to make a statement to the listeners.
Okay.
And it goes as follows. Many people look at statistics, FBI statistics, and they say, oh, one of the reasons that this particular group gets treated this particular way is because they commit more crimes. That's what the statistics says. And I want to remind our listeners here that that BS in is BS out. Let me give one perfect example. There was a caller here who said he called from, was it Studio? Where did he call from? I don't remember the area in Houston that he called from. Anyway, it's a part of the inner city. Any teenage kid in that part of the city will be arrested, booked, his social security number taken, and he will have a record, or he would have had touched the judicial system, and he would be in the system counted by the FBI. I live in Kingwood, Texas, a mostly white area, And I know personally from people who, good kids, all these are good kids, both the kids in the inner city, the kids in Kingwood, all very good kids. They're kids. They go into the back where I live in the parks to the back, and they have their beer bus, and they smoke their grass and all that good stuff. And the cops show up, and the cops sometimes throw their kegs away and tell them to go home. They never made contact with the judicial system. Now you look at the FBI statistic for those two cases, and it shows the preponderance of one side to be criminal with nothing on the other side. Those are the statistics that are being used to show that a particular section of this community is more violent than the other. It is not true. The semblance of reality is not reality. And those are the kinds of battles we fight. Now, when we look at the average American citizen, whomever they are, you cannot blame the average American citizen who hear these statistics and are fearful because that's all they've got, the statistics. Now, that's why you need to have programs like us, like what we have here, to really inform. Because ABC, when they tell you, or CBS, when they tell you about criminality and all these other issues, they don't tell you BS in is equal to BS out. So when you look at those statistics that categorize particular fellow American brothers and sisters of yours, all of us are Americans, when you see those stats, do remember BS in, BS out. Cece, it's all on you.
Okay, well, look, we have to, once we have this kind of information, we have to go inside these agencies, Federal Bureau of Investigation, Central Intelligence Agency, and say, look, we are demanding this information to be changed, or we're going to tie these places up, these entities, and up in so much red tape and litigation until you have no other way out but to change them and to specify the correct information so that the public will have the correct sources to go by.
Now, let me just say, Cece, can I interrupt you one quick second?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and let me tell you why I'm interrupting you, because they're given the true data. That's a problem. You know, that is what's so hurtful. When I say BS in, BS out, that's what I mean. They are giving you the data that they have. The problem is
it's manipulative data.
Right, but let me tell you where the manipulation occurs, okay? And this is what I mean when I say we have to change America. Because when the mayor of New York said that he has to talk to his son on how to interact with police, it raised hell in the police department because he told a truth. Mm-hmm. But the case of it is the FBI statistic comes from those individual cops on the beat. It is those cops on the beat must be changed.
That's right.
The people, we have to, the source of the beginning of the maligning starts at the ground level, grassroots. That's right. Grassroots. When we always talk about, you know, at Move to Amend, we always talk about things like we have to work the grassroots. We have to educate people, because when kids in Studewood, when kids in Third Ward, when kids in all these parts of Houston get arrested, and we know that kids in Kingwood or kids in Spring or kids in these other areas that are doing comparable things aren't arrested, but our parents in Studewood aren't marching on the police station to say we want equity, that's grassroots.
Yeah, see,
that's grassroots.
And I believe lawsuits bring change.
Yes, sir.
And when you bring a lawsuit along with exposure, see, and this is what I have a problem with when we have people that say, hey, look, you know, we got a situation where blacks were brought from Africa and slaves and reparation and all this. Stop talking about reparations and go down there and file a multi-trillion-dollar lawsuit, get together, get the signatures, and flood these courts and demand change and demand your justice.
You know?
That's what brings change.
But, you know,
sitting back talking about it and one being jealous of the other is not going to change it.
You're absolutely right, sir.
It's not going to change it.
Sir?
You got to put forth an effort, and it start with the courts. If you don't like the way the judicial system is handling things, sue their asses. Bring them, expose them.
Yeah.
That's how you bring about change.
Right. Now, you know something, CC, you're absolutely 100% right. And that same passion that you have there as far as what has to be done within the body politic and using the judicial, it's amazing that you said that, because see, let me tell you what was on Huffington Post this morning. Given that the wherewithal isn't there for a lot of policies that the current Republican Congress want to get done, it's not the wherewithal is not there. Meaning the president won't allow it to happen, and even some Republicans in the Senate won't allow it to happen. Guess where they're going to try to effect these changes? Just as you said, my friend, the courts.
In the courts, that's the only way you're going to bring about change. You can stop a policeman in his tracks overnight. If we can go to bed tonight and wake up in the morning, the entire judicial system can be rechanged according to what the people want.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You know what I mean?
Litigation, tying up the courts. Listen, judges have bonds.
Right.
Police have bonds. Lawyers have bonds. They're bonded.
Yes.
When you start going after those bonds, it brings about change.
And that is what we must start teaching.
And see, I'm amazed that the lawyers won't say anything about this, but apparently they don't want to do it.
No, sir. You know why they don't want to do it? Because, we are, all of us in America for a long time, and I'm running out of time right now, CC, but all of us in America have been played for a long time. One of the things that we're trying to do, many of us within the movement, is just trying to do that. Provide the information. Mm-hmm. Give information to empower folk to say, we're going to go out there and do what is necessary. And I tell you what I love about a lot of the calls I get. I get a lot of calls from people who are saying, you know what? We are going to do something to take back our democracy. We're going to do something. So what I ask all the folks that are listening here, you hear Gus, you hear Cece, you hear Wayne, you hear Terry, you hear good folk calling in about knowing what needs to be done. What I like to tell folks is, so let's get it done. And to get it done,
I've been doing what I need to do, man.
I
can
hear
only
you.
do so much. You'd be surprised,
sir. I know.
Some of the people on the other end.
Listening to you, sir. Listening to you, I know that. But I'm hot. I gotta go. I appreciate your call. Please keep listening.
I need to talk to you off the air.
And you got my information. I definitely will talk to you. Let me bring Terry back on real quickly. And you have a good one, my dear friend CC. Okay.
And thank you.
Thank you, sir. Terry, quick one out before we go.
The only thing you need to know about voting is if you do not participate in the voting process, you are complicit in your repression.
I love that. I simply love that. Folks, this has been a great show. I appreciate your attention. As you could see, passion from quite a few of the callers. This is a passion that all of us here, not only in Houston, those that are listening all around the country as well, this is what we need. Not only passion, but passion turned into action. I really do appreciate you listening to the show. This is Politics Done Right. Please remember to go to the website, politicsdoneright.com. Go to the web page, Politics Done Right. Let's continue the discussion. Have a wonderful night. Happy New Year. And with that, Politics Done Right, I'm Egberto, and good night.
Thank you very much for listening to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. You can personally reach me by sending an email to egberto@politicsdoneright.com. Remember, Egberto is spelled E-G-B-E-R-T-O. Change starts with you. 90.1 KPFT gives you information not tainted by corporate interest. Please visit kpft.org and contribute. Let's ensure continued access to real information and news remain available to all. Again, thank you very much for listening to Politics Done Right.